Thank you for joining us today during today's session entitled People to Know at the NCAA. As part of the 2020 Regional Rules session, this segment is aligned with the session Welcome to the World of Compliance. We will have a few segments that focus on various NCAA staff members from across the departments, with the goal to help compliance administrators connect the dots on who is who and the connection between their roles and your role on campus or in the conference office. My name is Angela Tressel, and I am an Associate Director in Academic and Membership Affairs. And I am joined today by Sarah Hebard, an Assistant Director in AMA. And we would like to introduce and highlight Dave Schnase, the current Vice President of Academic and Membership Affairs.
All right, Dave, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Yeah, people are going to be excited to hear about your background. I think to kick things off today, why don't you walk us through what your professional journey has been up until this point?
Happy to. And again, thanks for having me, Sarah. Angela, good afternoon. I suspect that my path is not that unusual for a lot of people in this business. I grew up playing sports in high school, had a brief experience in college that didn't work out, but I've always known the impact that sports could have on individuals that participate and everybody else who even pays attention to sports. It's such a big part of our society that there's so many benefits to athletics. But I really didn't know that athletics was a potential career option. I had no idea. So I went to law school thinking I was going to be a high-powered attorney, make lots of money, But quickly into that law school career, I found out this is not what I want to do. I don't want to practice law. So I was fortunate enough to meet the athletic director at Kansas at the time, the late Bob Frederick, and he said, there are a lot of skills that you're learning in law school that could be transferable to college athletics. And so he was kind enough to take me on as an intern. I interned at Kansas in their athletic department for a year and said, this is what I want to do. This really is it. And so then I took another internship at the National Association of Basketball Coaches. And then I worked at Marshall University for 2 years. And then I came to the NCAA. And at that point in time, the NCAA really was the pinnacle for compliance. You deal with national issues, really interesting issues. You work with really great people. So for me, it was a great place to go and just sort of be at the top of what I thought was the pinnacle of compliance. 25 years later, here I am. I was just been really, really fortunate. And so it bared out to be true that the issues that I've been working with and the people that I've been working with for 25 years have just been fantastic. And so here I am and still happy to be here, still happy to have a job. So happy that Mark and Stan and Donald employ me, and just really, really fortunate.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you've seen AMA, grow and expand and develop throughout your time in the compliance industry. Can you give our listeners, viewers, a snapshot kind of description of what AMA is, like what our department is, and what role it plays in the big picture of college athletics?
Yeah, I'll try to do this, Sarah, in as few words as possible. But when I tell my mom or my wife or my kids what I do, it really sounds convoluted. So I'm going to try and do this in a way that folks can understand. But really, I look at AMA as sort of the proactive service arm of regulatory affairs. We have AMA, we have enforcement, and we have the eligibility center. And I love those other two staffs, by the way. They do terrific work, but of course I'm partial to AMA. But we work, we offer service in a number of key areas across all three divisions. We deal with stakeholders across the country on very complex, challenging issues. And it's really about providing service to those schools. At the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason. We're here to support 500,000 student athletes as they pursue a degree and participate in college athletics. So AMA, again, we touch a number of different areas, and I could go into any one of those areas, Sarah, but I think just from the broader perspective, we provide service, guidance, advice to the membership in support of our student athletes.
So Dave, I'm going to transition here a little bit and ask how AMA has changed since you started, and maybe even before you were there. What have you seen change in this department?
Yeah, great question, Angela. First of all, I have to say that when I took the job as vice president, I took a job that had a really strong foundation. And that foundation was built by Kevin Lennon, our former vice president, who was in that job for a number of years. He's still a mentor to me. He's a great friend. He's a great colleague. So he deserves all the credit for where we are today. He really does, he and his staff. The one thing I would say that's changed the most, though, since I took over is we took down the silos. When I took over, we had two silos, one in academic policy and governance, and the other in rules compliance. We broke down those silos and allowed our staff now to work in a number of different areas, and that allows us to be more flexible. It allows us to provide real-time service, again, on challenging, complex issues that we don't foresee coming down the pike when they come down the pike. So that's the main thing right now, and we do that in all three divisions. Focusing on the different needs of our memberships. I'm so proud of our staff. I really am. You two know that. Our staff is passionate. They work really hard. They're good colleagues to each other and to folks internally and externally. Just so proud of them. We get our customer survey results back every year, and the membership every single year says, you guys are doing a great job, and that's refreshing. It sort of validates what I think about our staff, and our staff deserve all of the credit for that. There's no question that we can get better as a staff, and we will get better, but it's good to know that the membership appreciates and understands the work we do and thinks we're doing a good job.
Appreciate that response, and I can attest that you definitely share that sentiment with the staff, and I think that's good to hear as staff members. I think, if you had a crystal ball, and, a lot of times we wish we had that, especially during these times, but what do you see for the future of AMA, or what do you want AMA to look like in the future as you continue as vice president?
Yeah, thanks for that question. And it really is a transition from the last question into this one, because previously, we shifted from a sort of a strict constructionist approach to the service. We'd read the bylaw and we would say, here's our interpretation. We would give the response. We are much more student athlete friendly these days. We are much more flexible. We're much better equipped to live in the gray areas of the legislation and in the way we provide our service. And I think that's important because it then sort of sets the table for your question, which is what we want to be going forward. I mean, our immediate plans right now are to make sure that we continue to support the membership, in these challenging health, social, and financial times. That's priority number one. Once we get beyond that, though, and we have a 5-year plan, we think about this all the time, think about our goals and how to lead and serve, and that plan is organic. But we have a North Star, and that North Star is providing excellent service that's consistent with the membership's expectations for us. So again, going back to being student athlete friendly, that's important to us. Understanding our membership's needs, that's important to us. And then delivering on those expectations, that is key. So in terms of going forward, Angela, I really hope that we're able to do that and respond to all of the challenges that we know are going to come our way. I mean, if you asked me this question 3 years ago, I maybe would have said basketball reform. I probably would not have said name, image, and likeness. I certainly would not have said pandemic. But you put all those together, and it just shows the breadth and the depth of our experience and what we need to do to serve the membership.
That's helpful. Thank you.
All right, Dave, I know that from my personal experience, coming from campus and now transitioning into the national office staff, I have learned so much about AMA that I had no idea even existed. And I'll similar my canned response of what is AMA, we answer, interpretations and waivers. I think every or most new compliance folks are acquainted with that role that AMA serves. But there's so much more to that. What's a fun fact about AMA that new compliance administrators might not realize or might not know about our department?
Well, I'm going to turn that question right back to you, Sarah and Angela, but I'm going to answer it first, but I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about that because it's really hard to think of one fun fact that represents 70 to 75 people, right? But I do think it's possible, and I should say that we're a fun group. We really are. I mean, we take our work really seriously. We work really hard. We're passionate about it. But once you get to know us, you'll like us. And I think the perception is that the NCAA is a really buttoned up organization, that we come to work and we're straight down the middle of the fairway every single time. But that's not exactly right. I think you two would attest to that. You walk up and down the halls and you see people collaborating in the halls, in meeting rooms, having fun, laughing, going out to lunch. So all of that, I think, is important to having a nice, healthy culture. If you can't have the good work and the good culture, it's going to be a real grind. But because we have both, we have the interesting work and we have the passionate, fun people, it makes it a really great place to work. So that's my fun fact. What do you two think?
Oh, I'm going to say it's the hub. I know I might be biased about it too, but I just think, and you may have used this this analogy, but I just think we are the hub, and so many spokes come off, and we interact with so many of the departments. Like you said, we're very collaborative. So I just think AMA is the true, I guess, reflection of on-campus compliance. You know, when you're on campus, you are interacting with every department. I used to say you really do know every staff member in the athletics department, because everyone needs to know the rules and you're educating. And I feel like that just transitions over to the national office so much because of the collaboration we do with all of the departments within the national office and outside stakeholders. So I just think you just see that AMA involvement or footprint pretty much on every compliance or national issue that you might see in the media or on campus. So
yeah, so I think that's a really good point, and I'm not sure people recognize that AMA deals with so many different stakeholders. I mean, you're right. We deal with student athletes through the SACs. We deal with coaches through the coaches associations, faculty members, athletic administrators, presidents, outside counsel. We deal with everybody on a regular basis, and that's what makes this job interesting. So I think you're right.
Yeah, and I think even more so for this summer with COVID. I know you guys instituted, or our AMA leadership instituted the conference outreach program, and I think I can speak from a personal standpoint. I had great relationship with my conference, but man, has that expanded, leaps and bounds within the last few months, just being involved with their conference calls on a weekly basis and their reliance on us for all the changing and evolution that has happened with COVID. So, but yeah. I won't take over, Angela. I'll turn it over to you too.
You did a great job, Sarah. I would say, I have never worked around such amazing people. And it's not just that they are smart, but they're just honest and good people. They're genuine. They come to work ready. They are hardworking. And so that rubs off on other people in our department. And so I think as we work together, you can really see the results of that, because everyone is in this together and we're working towards one goal. I would say a fun fact would be, I look sometimes down the hall at like 11 o'clock or noon, and it looks like passing period, as you imagine it was in high school, because everyone's coming out of the doors and they're going to their next meetings and they're giving high fives in the hallway. And that's just really an important part to coming to work every day. So that's my fun fact.
Yeah. So I know you're supposed to be interviewing me, but we've talked a lot about AMA and how great it is to work in AMA. But from your perspective, what's a challenging part about working in AMA? What has really been difficult and yet maybe rewarding too at the same time for you two?
I can jump in. So I started in AMA on the Division II team and transitioned a few years ago to the Division I side. And I think the challenging part has been that the work doesn't stop. But I think that's very much like on campus. The work is never going to stop, and we're doing it for student athletes. And being a former student athlete, I see the challenges that student athletes face, but I also see the challenges that administrators face. So although the work at times is heavy, I think at the end of the day, I know that we're doing it for the right reasons and for that student athlete. And so regardless of how hard the challenges are, I think that we're ready to take them on. And I enjoy being part of that.
Well, Angela, we're ready to take those on in large part because of the work that you do. I mean, folks may not know this, but Angela is a leader in our education space, and she really does just an incredible job, not just educating our membership on different issues, but anticipating what those education needs are and really delivers. So Angela, thanks. Sarah, what do you think is the most challenging part?
Yeah, I think Angela hits on some really great points, and I think education is a challenge on campus, and making sure that our administrators and our coaches and our student athletes are up to date. And I would say more importantly, I think I joked that especially this past summer, and even before that, compliance administrators deserve a raise because they have had a really difficult task this past summer of navigating, the changing of the rules in the sense of just in a limited time frame. And I know that, from all of our ends, that's been a challenge in navigating, what does the future look like, and especially with our rules compliance. But it's what's nice is when you get on the phone and you talk to administrators and remind them, and they remind me, hey, we're all in this together. We're all in the same boat. We're trying to navigate this together, and we're not going to leave you out on an island. So although challenging, again, I think it all comes down to that personal relationship and human side of this is, hey, we're going to get through this together and move forward. And we do. So it all works out.
We're so lucky to hire you, Sarah. I mean, you talk about providing good service to the membership, but having somebody come from campus like you came from campus, it just adds another layer of credibility to what we do in AMA. And that's why we have you working on so many teams, the legislative team, our interpretations team, working now with Division I Student Athlete Advisory Committee. You can do that because you've walked in those shoes before and you bring such a fresh perspective. So I appreciate that about you.
Oh,
so I'm sorry I sabotaged
No,
the agenda.
that's
I know
great. I would say one thing we probably don't share enough is that there's a lot of networking within the national office. Sarah Hubbard was a student athlete, a national SAC rep when I first met her when I was working in a conference office and running events. And she was the person that I would call and say, can you get the student athletes to talk about this? So it's been really exciting to watch Sarah grow as well from a student athlete to an administrator. So that's really great. I think one of the last questions we have here for you, Dave, is really, we've all been there. We've all been at a new job in a new role, and it's exciting and scary. But what advice do you have for a new compliance administrator as they pursue this career in athletics?
Yeah, I love this question. For me, this is a two-part answer. The first is that I think the most successful folks in this business are the ones who really aggressively seek out their weaknesses, and they are really aggressive in terms of trying to address those weaknesses and get better. It's easy to say and hear from your boss, yeah, you're doing a great job. It's easy to accept that and to move on. But to hear that and say, okay, I'm doing a great job, in what way? And I know, and thank you for saying I'm doing a great job, but how can I do an even better job? When you are able to embrace that and really be coachable, I think that sets you up for success. And then the second part, in this business, you have to be good at the relationship piece. You have to be good at building and maintaining positive relationships across the board. We have a very diverse membership. We have a lot of diversity within our campuses in terms of coaches, student athletes, and administrators. Everybody has different needs and wants. And so being able to address that in a way that is not just providing work product, but doing so in a way that builds that relationship, I think, is absolutely critical. So number one, master the skills, be aggressive in pursuing your weaknesses and trying to get better. And then number two, be really good at the relationship piece.
That's great. Appreciate that.
That's really great. I know, so this has been really beneficial for me, I know for Angela, and I hope for our viewers. Any last words before we close up and wrap up this section, Dave?
I'm not sure how long this video will be posted. I assume it'll be stale within the first 3 or 4 weeks it's on or up for people to view. But I would say these are really challenging times. We recognize that at the national office. We recognize that in AMA. So whatever we can do to help support you in your work on campus, we want to try and do that. So please reach out. You know how to reach us in AMA. You can do so by phone or through RSRO. All 3 divisions. We want to hear from you. We want to get better. We want to serve you. And so thanks for all you do on campus.
Yes. Well said. Well, Dave, thank you so much for being with us today. You are one of our people that we are showcasing in the People to Know section for this year's Welcome to the World. So I will do a shameless plug and tell all of our viewers, hey, make sure to check out our other recordings. We have some good ones up there. But this will conclude it. And thank you so much, Dave, for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me. You two are great.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.